Before we start the podcast, a big shout out to our sponsors and partners, GymPro Apparel. They're making waves in the health and fitness industry at the moment. They've got some great gym wear for men and women, so be sure to check them out in the link below. Right, let's get cracking with the episode. So today, I have the GymPro owner, Adam Rai, on the podcast. How are you doing, mate?
Woo! Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks.
I love the energy.
I'm good, thanks,
Joe. Obviously, we were just talking before the podcast. I wasn't feeling too great this morning. I had a bit of a stomach bug. Then I got a voice note from you, which, do you know what? I should play it now, but it absolutely perked me up. I was delaying the cold plunge, but as soon as I heard that voice note, jumped out of bed straight into the cold plunge. So yeah, love the energy, man. It's good.
I think it's growing up watching Fresh Prince every day. That's probably what it is. That's the kind of energy I bring.
Interesting. But Joe, let's get straight into it. Let's talk a little bit about yourself. Obviously, we know you as the GymPro owner. But tell me where the passion for health and fitness came. Where did your journey in health and fitness start?
Well, growing up, I was a footballer for Bristol City. So it started that way.
You kept that
so
quiet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then from there, went to personal training.
Yeah.
And then from there, joined the fire service, West Midlands Fire Service.
Okay.
Where I bumped into, unfortunately, my business partner, Leon.
Okay.
Yeah, so we hit it off straight away. Passion for fitness. He's into boxing, such as yourself. Done some amateur boxing and stuff, and also into football. And we just hit it off on our watch, and then it spiraled from there. So it went into food. I did all the cooking on the in the fire service, and looked after the boys. And then we went into the gym every day. We were part of an old school part of the fire service, or time in the fire service, where health and fitness was heavily pushed. So we would cook together, eat together, train together, go out together, each other's best man at the weddings, each other's godfathers to their children.
Quite a close-knit.
Very close. Stereotypically fire service. And Leon and I, we always had a mindset, an inquisitive mindset, where we were always looking to do things around the fire service or outside the fire service. And Leon and I naturally went, first of all, should we make... Our fire service training gear was like cardboard. So that got us into, why don't we make our own? And then it got into, and we were heavily leaning, both of us at the time, into a brand of Nike called Nike Pro. We were heavily into that part of Nike that was existing at the time. It was very pushed, marketed by Nike as a separate entity.
Yeah.
We were very into that, a professional attitude, mindset, and everything that goes with the athlete side.
Would you say you both had that entrepreneurial mindset from the start then?
If you could, entrepreneurial in the loosest sense of it, in that, we're both daft enough to think that we are. That's probably...
Which is what you need sometimes, right? You need to be brave enough to take the risks.
Yeah. Complete naivety and risk-taking, and daft, or whatever you want to call it. But we took the plunge then to launch GymPro and started pop-up shops. We launched at Body Power, and then we started doing pop-up shops up and down the country, gathering all this feedback from men and women into what exactly they wanted. I couldn't believe how many people were coming up to us saying, I didn't like this part, especially women. Leggings were falling down during their exercises and things like this. So we took all this feedback and did reverse engineered our brand, in that we took feedback first and then tried to make products that people wanted, rather than trying to do an Apple in making products that we thought people needed. It was like that, so that's why we did it.
So taking it back a step, where did the name GymPro come from?
Well, again, it's very much towards our ethos, into a professional mindset. Now, this can be, rather than just being athletes, it's a professional mindset in us all that we're trying to tap into. That element of you always wanting to gather information and do things better, whether that be training, whether that be, it can be anything, but you take your life seriously, from your food to the way you walk, to the way you brush your teeth, to the way you speak to people, to the way you gather information, what programs you watch on TV now. All of a sudden, you have a conscious mindset rather than being led subconsciously into the things you are consuming.
Okay.
That's basically a professional mindset rather than a professional athlete.
Because I think that's the first thing that I noticed about the brand GymPro, which I was hoping...
we were flabbergasted that name wasn't taken, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at the time. But yeah, we got lucky.
Because you have made the brand quite a bit about mindset, right? About being the 1%, so
Yes.
to speak. And
Yes.
sometimes people may not think that they can be, but it's possible for everybody to be part of that 1%, which is what you're trying to kind of push, right? Come and join the 1% club, so to speak. But would you say that's part of your personality as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Being around the athletes, as we got to be around the 1%, let's call it, professional athletes at the highest part of their sports, from gymnasts to boxers. We've worked with some really high up athletes, and listening, if you just take time to listen not only to the athletes but their parents, you can understand just how the rest of us don't really operate in the same way. So this was why I believe it is a 1% attitude and mindset, because the 99% are oblivious to the power that we all have, but not taking any notice.
Do you think that 99%, can they develop that mindset over time though?
Absolutely. Yeah. Once you've had the inspiration from something, it then becomes, once you've had the 1% inspiration, like Thomas Edison said, it's then 99% up to you, because the inspiration's only a small part of it, but once you've got to have it in order to then make the change.
I think that's what it takes sometimes, right? It's that one thing that just kind of makes something click in your mind, but then obviously there needs to be that consistency that comes with it, right? It's easy to be kind of motivated in the moment, but that's where discipline comes in, which I know obviously you talk about that a lot as well. But let's talk about, obviously, you're setting up a business, GymPro. It's a very competitive industry to get into. Did that ever not kind of put you off? Were you concerned about that, or were you still ready to go all guns blazing?
Jay, honestly.
Or did you just have that much faith in GymPro working?
Hell no. Honestly, if
Go on, tell me honestly.
If you got me and Leon under oath, and the old question, if you knew then what you knew now, you'd have never started. And that is the same, I think, for most, from Elon Musk. If you listen to them, to an athlete in itself, once you take the plunge, the leap of faith, and you decide that you're doing it, it's something that you must navigate through. You must be consistent. You must not give up. But if you knew how hard it was going to be, you'd have never took the first step, because starting a brand is something completely different to starting a business. In that, layman's terms, you could get a bucket and a ladder and a sponge and go knock doors tomorrow and start a window cleaning business, and you can be in profit on day one. A brand is something you must convince people to change direction, because let's say, talk gym wear. We already have a connection with the brands that we go to for our gym wear. So to then take them out of their normal direction, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, to choose GymPro, it's a very difficult thing to try and do.
It is.
Brands, if you look at all the clothes that are decent brands, we're all making the same thing. We're all a commodity at the end of the day. We're all making, we like to think that we are high performance, antibacterial, technical apparel for combat sports at the moment. But you take a pair of shorts from Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, GymPro, Boxraw, Everlast, and they're all pretty much the same. The only thing that matters is the way you feel towards Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, GymPro. So Lamborghini and Ferrari, you take the raw elements, Rolex, Omega, it's the same thing. The only thing that matters is the way we feel towards that brand. Am I connected more to the way they're trying to make me feel? And that is the job of a brand. We have got to connect with the public into making them feel they are like, or they think like us. The 1% Club is something that if you are dedicated in your life to make your life better every single day, and like I mentioned before, it can be anything from raising your kids to the way you have a conscious thinking, and that's us.
Of how you can connect people to the brand.
Absolutely.
Right? And I can see that's exactly what you're trying to do from the mindset perspective as well, right? And the type of clients that you and customers you're trying to attract. So obviously I can imagine that was obviously one of your challenges, trying to get the brand up and going. But what would you say were some of the other challenges getting GymPro up and running, and some of the challenges that you'd say you face today? Because I think with the fitness industry, trends are changing constantly as well, right? It's very difficult to keep up with customers' kind of wants and needs. How do you do that? So yeah, what would you say some of your biggest challenges have been?
Well, let's take it back to what was the first inspiration for online. I'd say Gymshark are the first, in that unicorn brand cannot be repeated. You cannot make content and use athletes as freely as they did and create the same ripple effect. It's near gone impossible. You have to now collaborate with the athletes that you think you're connected to.
Most representative of your brand, right?
You have to share your brand. So if Leon and I think we're going to make it without giving up part of what we believe, I don't think it's possible. We can't, like, for example, take ownership of our business. Things we're doing now is we're prepared now to share the ownership of the brand to the like-minded individuals that we need to be part of the brand, because it can't be done. It can't be replicated on your own. You have to collaborate now, I believe, because the trends are very difficult to predict and go with. All you can do is stay true to your belief and keep attracting like-minded molecules to your atom. It's like you have to keep making it bigger. Trying to predict what will come is very difficult. I think you just have to attract what you are, more and more of what you are.
Would you say that's a huge part of getting your brand out there in terms of influencers and getting the right people who have the kind of enough of a following to put your brand out there as well?
Again, this has changed massively what we've learned, and it's not to be insulting to anybody that considers themselves influencers and have worked hard to build up following. But I think there's a big difference between somebody who thinks they are an influencer and someone who has influence on the market. So there's a big difference.
I like that. That's a very good point.
There's a big difference. My followers, and we find it very different across platforms. Yeah. So someone who's successful, let's say across Instagram, Facebook, has a very different level of influence on the market than someone who's successful on YouTube and necessarily TikTok now. Yeah. So it's how you connect, and are you an inspirational individual that attracts those like-minded people? And it's a very difficult thing to navigate for a brand to who you are going to first work with and gift and collaborate with. It's a very difficult thing to try and measure as well. So if you think of all the athletes Nike have, they're still trying to find another Michael Jordan, because as good as these athletes are, it's the same with Under Armour. Under Armour have a plethora of elite athletes, all demanding, and rightly so. They are the world champs in their sports. They demand the right contracts, but they have zero influence on the market. It's a bizarre thing. Now, you take Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, zero athletic achievement, not a world champion in anything other than inspirational individual. Yeah. Conor McGregor's another example of. Muhammad Ali would have been one. You can tell, you just know it. So being an inspirational individual is being different to being the best at your sport. It's a very different thing to try and explain to an influencer.
I can imagine.
And they take huge offence that, unfortunately, you don't have an effect on the market. You have an effect on your audience, but not the market.
Is that always on your mind then? Are you always having to keep a lookout for those right type of individuals that you really think could represent the brand in a right way? Because it must have to be a constant thing on your mind,
it's a very difficult thing to isolate and locate, but the only way you can physically do it is when you're around them. So when we first worked with the likes of Ben Whittaker, and as much as people can critique his boxing style or whatever, when you are around that man, and people who are criticising him have never been around him.
It's very easy to criticise from a distance.
Exactly,
right?
We all do it. Yeah. We're all adverse to laying in a bit of criticism to people that we think we know. But when you're around Ben Whittaker, his team and his dad, but more so Ben, it's an energy. It's like people used to talk about it, and I don't mean to demean Muhammad Ali, but it's Conor and these people. I know Ben won't like to be compared in that way, but when Muhammad Ali walked in or Conor walks in, there's an energy.
There's an aura.
It's like the airs just hit you differently.
Yeah.
So that's the best way I can explain it. I'm sure when The Rock walks in a room, there's some weird energy.
It is. It's like an aura, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no,
and
100%.
you can't help but be attracted to it, and it affects you. So all these things you see on podcasts and inspirational people talking about you are who you hang around with and things like this, it's very important that you are around people who have the right energy.
It's so true. I always used to brush that off thinking, oh, well, not really, because I've got influence over myself. So it doesn't matter who I'm around. But with age, I've started to realise it really does make a difference, right? Like who you are, that they're a reflection of your personality and who you want to be. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, completely agree with that.
And it's not always success. So although success is a marker, it's not always success.
Character,
it can be
it's
absolutely
yeah,
integrity, character, like you're saying, and it's the charisma, it's energy, but you can feel it straight away.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And that probably brings me on to the question: how on earth did you get Artur Beterbiev to be one of your kind of leading ambassadors for the brand? And obviously you've got David Benavidez, you've got Chris Eubank Jr. now, who are really pushing the GymPro kind of message. How did you get those guys on board? I'm always interested in this, how these link-ups happen.
This is it. As an entrepreneur or an entrepreneurial mindset you're trying to accomplish, if you can't convince the people around you, you can't convince yourself and you can't convince the people around you. You've got no chance of trying to approach these people, so forget it. Any young people that are trying to start the brand, you've got to be able to sell what you're doing yourself. Otherwise, it's going nowhere, because people have to believe in what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish, regardless of the product you're selling. So I believe I could walk into Tesla tomorrow and be the number one Tesla seller, irregardless, because I know once I've gathered all the information, or it's what I believe in. If I believe in Tesla, I know I could be the best seller of Tesla, and I believe in what we're doing so profoundly that I'm prepared to inject it into everyone around me, from my son to my parents to my partner. Everyone I'm trying to instill a 1% mindset in everybody around me. So basically, on the conversations with Artur and his management, Chris and his management, Dan Chapman and his management, from these people, it first starts with me and Leon, convincing them of what we're trying to do, rather than money or product or it's us. That if you can believe in yourself enough and back yourself, you can sell you what you're trying to do enough, I think you can convince anybody of anything.
Would you say that's a secret kind of selling technique, having that self-belief in what you're actually pushing out and not 100%. Just spouting rubbish, right? You've got to actually believe in what you're selling. So
a lot of people talk about it with love, don't they? If you don't love your work, you need to, but you can love two things. You either got to love the end result enough to go through the hardship of not enjoying it. So there's two ways of looking at it. They go, if you don't love what you do, you need to quit. No, that's not necessarily true. You can hate what you're doing, but love and crave the end result that much, you're prepared to go through the agony. Now, I know you don't necessarily love those ice baths you take every morning, Jim.
Hate them, yeah.
But you want the end result that much, don't even come into it, yes or no, I'm doing it. It's the same with anything. If you ask people go, you need to... For example, I'm a dad now, so I'll get this. It always relates back to my son because he is my passion at the moment. So people go, you need to listen to your children and things like this and be led by them. But if you listen to your children, they'll just do and eat and watch whatever they want.
They go based on feeling.
Exactly.
Right?
We don't want to eat broccoli. We don't. But we're craving a healthy end result enough that we eat broccoli. We convince our minds that it's healthy enough and tasty enough that I'm going to eat it, regardless of whether I want to or not.
What type of upbringing did you have then? Because that's a very good mindset to have in terms of like discipline, eating the right things, training. Obviously, you said you used to play for Bristol City, right? Is that where kind of that mindset came from, applying yourself?
If I had this mindset growing up, I would be in a very different place.
I always
now.
say that to myself.
Yeah,
The things you learn later in life. That's why if you've got a wise head on young shoulders, you're going to go very far, right?
Bingo, G. You hit the nail on the head. All the brilliant philosophers of the past, when they touched on this, and these quotes of, if I knew then what I knew now, and it's not to do with your upbringing, it's to do with your perspective on what you're going through at any one. You can only get it with age, and it's a very difficult thing to instill in a young child. You must do this because it's going to be beneficial. Well, he has no perspective on what's bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, growing up, I didn't have that perspective or this 1% mindset. It's something from being around, forcing myself to come out of the fire service with Leon, start the business, and being around other 1%ers that you start to gather information and
who were those
changes.
1%ers that you started surrounding yourself with, would you say?
People that have come from even more humble beginnings than yourself, but have achieved a lot. So the odds are stacked against virtually every young boxer, let's say, because 9 times out of 10, let's just isolate
that
boxing.
is a 1% sport, right?
Bingo. And let's just isolate boxing for a second. The majority, now you can't speak for everyone, there's always exceptions to the rule, but they don't make the rule, do they? The exceptions. So the majority of boxers come from very, very humble beginnings. They have everything against them, no sponsorship, no facilities, no this, and it's them against the world, and they force themselves out of their environments, bad areas, bad surroundings, bad people, bad energy, into good energy. And when you're around them, you can't help but be, it's infectious. You can't help but admire them and want to make changes yourself.
100%, because I think there's no shortcuts that can be taken there, right? No. And you can only respect people that are willing to go those lengths. So how big would you say that the GymPro team is now? Including
yourself?
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Well, it's still very small. It's surprising. This is another thing as an entrepreneur. People think, can look at GymPro and think, it's a huge brand and it's a machine, it's this and that. It's basically me, Leon, a marketing team, and our manufacturers. That's it.
I have a feeling it won't be for long, though. I think there's something there, I think, and I think you know it as well. I think Leon probably knows it, and I think certain other individuals, where obviously we spoke about before the podcast, can see this brand going in the right direction, right?
Well, hopefully we'll see in the near future just how quickly it can start to build momentum now. But from writing notes in the warehouse to every customer, to shipping and handling.
I absolutely love that. Like when you send stuff out, so you put notes on
every single one. Yeah,
that's amazing. While you can still do that, you do it, right? Which, it's a nice personal touch. What made you decide to do that?
Again, it's a 1% mindset. Again, it's like we can print off already made personal notes, and obviously when you get to a certain size, I understand the CEO of Nike, Mr. Nike, can't do that. Yeah. But it's something that while we are young, while we are growing, it's something that I want to do. I want to write to each customer, first to say thank you and hope that they love the garment, or if they're a reoccurring customer, hope they're having a good year or hope their training is going well. And it's surprising, we do get emails back on thank you for writing a personal note. It's refreshing and things like that. So it makes you feel good. Yeah. And that then reinforces what you're doing, that even though you're not a big brand or you're not making money at the time, for people to keep doing the right thing. It's never the wrong time to do the right thing. Just keep doing the right thing, regardless if it's fruitful. Just keep doing it.
Definitely. It's definitely a nice personal touch. And just going back to Beterbiev and that link up, have you ever I know Mikey's been around him a little bit. Have you managed to be around him at any point and see him training?
So Arta is the best way. I haven't personally, but like you said, Mikey went out there to Montreal in minus 20 to get the content that we've got with Arta. Yeah. He is exactly what you see. So on these posts that they have the interviews with, and you've got Matchroom trying to entice him into something, he's that way. He's very that way. The ultimate respectful, religious human being. He's religion, boxing, and family. That is it.
He seems very a black and white type of person, right?
just like the
but
UFC world
scary
champion
as well at the same time.
Yeah, and that's what makes him scary. Is that he
no nonsense,
absolutely
got a job to do, getting it done.
He doesn't trash talk. He almost smiles, doesn't he, when he's being evil, which is a very strange thing to be around. That he's very calm. You know when someone antagonises you and your heartbeat goes. If you put a heart thing on him,
I can imagine that.
Deadly, a true assassin definition. He sums up assassin, the nicest, pleasant, respectful guy that will stone cold killer.
I think they're the boxers that I love the most. The ones that are so maybe not humble, but have that integrity and character outside the ring, but are just absolute killers. It's like a switch. As soon as they get into the ring, you know they're not to be messed with.
I was drawn to more the Alis. I was drawn to more the people that are. I can't help but when I see them smile and laugh and just then like one of these at the end, like woo! It's like
I can imagine you going for that type of.
Ali is somebody who I'd be addicted to.
Yeah,
that
energy. You like the big personalities, don't you? In boxing,
yeah, he can't help but get you going. So when you're around these people, you want to train. When you're around these people, Arta, when you're around him, you want to like go for dinner and just relax and it's a very strange thing that you think it
works for him though, right?
It's just Arta. But you, as a brand to market him is very difficult. It's a very difficult thing to navigate.
Yeah.
It's just ultimate respect. There's nothing controversial about him in any way. Whereas you with Ali, with Ben Whittaker, they're riling up the opposition from day one. They are antagonising people. He doesn't even box antagonising. He's like, stand there, come on. And that's it. He don't change his tactics for no one, Arta. Whereas the Alis and the Whittakers and these people will bend and move. Dan Chapman's, it's
interesting.
Brilliant.
So, without being biased, who do you think won the fight between Bivol and Beterbiev, and who do you think will win the rematch?
First of all, it's a massive cliche, but there are no losers in those matches.
There are,
because boxing,
that's a 0.1%, isn't it? I think.
Exactly. I think if you're a Bivol fan, you can't help but like Arta, and if you're an Arta fan, you can't help but like Bivol. So, if you're asking me what style I prefer, I prefer Bivol's.
Do you?
Yeah, because he is not entertainer, but he's very much.
It's that Soviet style of like. Oh, what's the best way to describe it?
Yeah, it's very difficult.
There is a bit of a flamboyant style as well, in and out, and he's more of the boxer, isn't he? Beterbiev's the banger.
He's more about not getting hit and hitting and scoring points.
But to be fair, both had phenomenal amateur records, which I didn't realise.
No, it's Arta is very much if you like a Tyson. If you love that guy that is an ultimate boxer by nature and doesn't know any other way, raw, then Arta's your man. But it's. I don't know. I couldn't pick a winner between. I know there's been a lot of controversy backwards and forwards, points scored and this and that. But regardless of that, I couldn't pick a winner. It's the same as the Triple G and Canelo. I couldn't pick it. To say Canelo won that fight, that both fights were bizarre.
Yeah, no, the first one I think it was definitely. I thought Triple G.
Triple G, it's like I can't.
That was bizarre.
It is a bizarre thing. It's like I don't know losers.
I think this is the thing about boxing. It's very, from a judge's point of view, it's what you like more, right? Do you like the front foot boxer? Do you like the guy who's got the Bivol type style? So, yeah.
This is what I hate about boxing now. And if you are a young boxer coming through, this is what I'm trying to instill in my son.
Go through a lot of heartbreak.
Exactly. About what I'm talking about now with my son is if you can be an inspirational individual, the danger of these young boxers is now, from Sam Noakes and Henry Turner and these people that we're working with, is if they have a loss, the promoters, and it's so wrong with sport. Absolutely. And they feel it derails a career. And in many instances, it does. But if you look at Amir Khan's, if you look at Connor's, if you look at these Ali, if you can be an inspirational figure alongside sporting excellence, it doesn't matter. If the public demand to see you, regardless win or loss, if you box with your heart out there and can somehow translate your passion and your energy to people through the camera, people will pay. Whether you win or lose, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Do you know what? Turki Al-Sheikh actually made a very good point on this. He said, since Mayweather came into play and he had the 50-0 record, is it 49-0? He goes, no one's wanted to lose their own and been very protective of it since then. He goes, that needs to change. Yeah, he goes, that needs to change. He goes, I'm going to start making fights, whether people think it's too early or not. If both boxers are in a good place to be fighting each other, they need to do it. Look at the olden days when you had Sugar Ray Robinson, Roberto Duran. These guys had losses on their record. Ali had losses on their record. It doesn't define the fight. I think what defines them is, like you said, how they come back and not feeling like that's it, your career's over. And obviously you've got a lad, so that's obviously something you're going to try and instill in him. And that was probably the best advice I got, from my dad. So he put me into amateur boxing when I was 10 years old, hated it, didn't want to do it. I was ready to run back out of the gym. I hated conflict in any way. But he said to me, he goes, listen, he goes, just train for a year, get to the point where you can have your first amateur bout because you have to be 11. He goes, have that. He's like, get a couple of wins on your record. He's like, I do want you to go through a defeat. But then he's like, I also want you to show me that you can come back after that defeat and you can come back and win another couple of fights. And to be fair, it's probably the best advice I've ever gotten because it did teach me that. And I've also applied it to everyday life as well, that you can't just wallow in self-pity. You got to bounce back, and the quicker you bounce back, the better, right?
Absolutely, G. I love that from your dad. And it's exactly what I'm going through now, is that if he'd have listened to you in that moment and not taken his proactive parenting approach there and more like a reactive one of where people say a lot, oh, we'll get there in time, or oh, we'll learn to ride his bike in time, or that exact thing there, he's forced you into making a change, and it's done something in your brain that you can't then go back to the old mentality. You've changed. So this is what I'm talking about with how do you, if I knew then what I know now, but you can only know it then if you go through the experiential changes that's done in your 40s. Like if I'd have had Adam Jr. in my 20s, it'd be a completely different environment because I've had him now, and I regret not having children earlier. But part of that regret is I'm thankful because
you've learned so much.
I wouldn't be the dad I am today. So it's a very difficult thing to try and put across to youngsters. It's very difficult, but your dad's done a great job.
What do you try and instill in Adam Jr. then? And how old is Adam Jr.
He's
now?
5.
He's 5, because I've seen him competing in sprinting, hurdles, I think swimming, kickboxing. How many sports have you got him in?
Oh man, there's a lot. There's a lot. He does something every day.
It's good though. I like it. You're exposing him to a lot, right? It seems like he enjoys it though, as well. And I don't think he knows why you're making him do what he's doing, but the main thing is he's enjoying it.
He is, yeah. He's enjoying it, and he never, because we've created this environment, he never says he's not enjoying anything, or never says he doesn't want to do it. He's always up for challenges. But it goes back to a friend of mine, and again, you can only have this from perspective. A friend of mine had a child with a brain injury, and that led me on a journey to discover neuroplasticity and child development.
Okay.
And I started to read up on it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was basically a child's brain. If you line up all the supercomputers in the world, from every single one, AI, doesn't matter how many AIs you line up, the human brain at birth is the most potential in the known universe. So the moment it goes a day older, the baby becomes a day old, slightly less. Now, it might be a fraction, infinitesimal small of a fraction, but it's a fraction less. So people that go, oh, times this, times that, with your kids, give them time. Every day until they're 6 years of age, till their personality's formed, it's your responsibility.
They're a sponge, right?
You can program it without, you can teach them 9 languages. If you surround them, create the right environment. That is what led me on a discovery to test my son. And in many ways, I've created this blueprint now that I know that if I had another child, it would be even better. He or she, because of the environmental changes that have taken place. And it's when I look at it and I step back and I look, it happens all over the place, from any sibling families. The younger, again, there's always an exception to the rule, but the younger sibling outperforms, overachieves from the older siblings. And it's because of the environmental change that goes on, from Serena Williams and Venus Williams to the Haalands to the Højgaards in golf.
I guess the parents are learning as well, right?
Bingo. And the younger sibling's always losing. So in the sports, the older sibling gets everything. And you imagine the younger sibling is last to the dinner table or last in a race or last to competition, or they're losing all the time. And that is creating something different in their mind than the older siblings got, who's always won, was never seen defeat.
Yeah.
So I was massively curious as a dad, and I've been not experimenting but applying that to my son.
Sometimes it is trial and error,
the
right?
results are undeniable.
Yeah.
It's undeniable.
At what point would you say you get to an age where it's very difficult to continue to, I'd say reprogram, because you get to a certain point in life where you have these solid foundations and sound beliefs where you're so stuck in your ways, you don't want to change.
You're trying to get my dad to change. Oh, man. Dad, you shouldn't be eating out. What? Yeah. But it's... The only way you can explain it is, at 6, the human personality is formed, majority of it for the rest of their life, which is frightening to me. So this is why I'm in such a race with Adam Jr.
Yeah.
But
he's a confident lad, isn't he? I've seen his little golfs and his little dances afterwards. Yeah, I like it.
He loves it. Mark my words, man. He's coming. He's coming. If he chooses golf, I hope he does choose golf.
Yeah. Are you a golf player, are you?
No. Well, I used to play in the fire service, but not at all.
How come you got Adam into golf then?
I chose golf because I didn't like the football environment that I grew up in. I felt it's very much about someone's opinion rather than golf being, it's undeniable. The first person that,
that's a very
lowest
good point.
score wins.
When it's about someone's opinion, I think that's where you can sometimes be swept to the side quite easily, right?
Yeah, team sports are dangerous because the manager and the owners and the academies or this and that. And the football, they could have an ultimate team in football. They could have Barcelona under 6s, like the best footballing team in the country, but they're always looking. Yeah. So rather than developing and concentrating on the team and the lads that they have, football academies are always
looking
introducing new kids.
Yeah.
So a lot of parents, again, that's another podcast for football, but a lot of parents get very excited when they sign for a Man United academy or a Wolves academy, and rightly so, they should.
But not many of them make it.
Don't be fooled. Yeah, and it's because of that. Parents then take a step back because they think they're in the best possible hands, and they're not. You're the best possible hands for your child. So it's your responsibility to develop him more than that academy. No coach, golf coach or swimming coach will teach my son more about swimming or golf than me.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very fair point. Obviously, you said you wouldn't mind if he got into golf. What if he got into, say, kickboxing or boxing, and he started doing really well?
He does martial arts.
And he wanted to pursue that as a profession. How would you feel about that?
He needs to look at it from a professional attitude, in that we're talking about this with gymnastics at the minute. So Joe Fraser competes with us at competes or trains from GMAC facility where he trains in Birmingham.
Okay.
So he's just got into the development squad there.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, again, this is my opinion, but an Olympic gymnast is the highest form of human potential that you can get. Okay. A gymnast could go into any sport, divert into anything from tennis, and be better than a tennis player coming into gymnastics or a golfer coming into gymnastics. So the reward for Olympic gold, which is harder than becoming a world champion boxing or a world champion golf, is nothing. It's a gold medal. It's like all 50 grand sponsorship.
I find that a shocking idea.
From the lottery. It's all right. You're on 50 grand a year.
Pinnacle of
it's like,
athletics.
How is a gold medal not £1 million? A silver medal $500,000? It's because it's all going to the wrong people. So as good as gymnastics is and martial arts is, for me, Adam and I and his mum will discuss the best potential professional route for Adam to take based on the end result.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Olympic gold, there's not enough. It's different in America. The professional, so Simone Biles is a multimillionaire. A young girl trying to emulate Simone Biles in the UK, he's going to get 50 grand a year from the lottery, and you might get on GMTV. You might.
Yeah, it's true. You do always have to think about that end result. I think that's where the parents come in as well, right? And guiding them as best they can. But
it's fundamental. Any parent trying to get the child into any sport, from swimming, golf, anything, football, I encourage them to start with gymnastic base, because Adam's ability to control his body with his
weight.
golf, with his body weight,
is
I believe, massively down to his gymnastics, his ability to know where his hands are, his body is, the way his hips are moving. He understands more than his peers, more than the other 5-year-olds.
Yeah, I've got a couple of nephews who've started gymnastics, and they're, I think, probably about 4 years old, 5 years old, and you can see the benefit it has just holding their own kind of body weight up. And
Your living room level will be the same again. They're over your
they've got
settee, they're over your
They've got like little gymnastics equipment in their living room, and they see it as fun though. I don't think they realise that
absolutely
what is
they're like
doing.
chimps. Yeah,
exactly. And so I can definitely see the benefit in that. But let's just go back to GymPro for a second.
Okay,
what is the vision in the next 5 to 10 years for GymPro? Where do you want to take it?
As I mentioned to you previously, GymPro, like many young businesses at the moment, is, and I say this with the utmost respect for other brands that are in the business. Survival is first and foremost. Second of all, growth through like-minded individuals is second. So we are hoping to recruit now. We're just in the moment of finalising a big signing for GymPro. Really exciting.
And this isn't anything you can discuss in more detail?
Yes, we can.
You can?
It's coming into probably the most anticipated. Their dads are very, very famous. Probably everyone who enjoys sport will have an opinion, an historical moment with their dads, Chris Eubank and Conor Benn, and Nigel Benn. And we've hopefully now imminently about to finish the ink on the paper with Chris Eubank Jr. coming up for his fight with Conor, which I'm no doubt will be the biggest fight, and it's in the UK as well. So
definitely gonna have some eyes on
it's gonna
on that. And I saw Chris Eubank Jr. when he had the fight. I think was it in Saudi. He was wearing the GymPro sweatsuit.
Yes,
which
he
is
was
very.
And that was the first thing that brought his attention to our brand, our products, which again, as I've touched on earlier, is very important for a brand. But more so than that is how you make people feel about your brand is more important than the product that you're making. I know product is very important, but to me, what I've learned, or in my opinion, it's how you make people feel about your brand ultimately will be a success or failure.
Did you get much feedback from, obviously you've got Chris Eubank Jr. now jumping onto your brand. Did you get much feedback from him as to what he thought, what his initial kind of thoughts were?
Other than he really loved it, no, we don't. You don't get much from, again, another thing
Boxers
I want people to understand is, when you're dealing with athletes, if you're dealing with the athlete personally, you get very little dialogue with them because they're so...
Their profession is first, and
exactly.
This is
And secondly, if you're dealing with their management, you're probably going to get even less feedback. But it was that he loved the product and we're happy to discuss things. That was the feedback we got.
And there's another one, but I don't know if you can mention his name.
You know more than me. Who's the other one?
David.
David Beterbiev. Yes, so David is, again, coming into a huge fight with Morale.
Yeah.
And then if he wins, I think the WBC have just made him mandatory for the winner of Arta and Bivol.
Oh, wow.
Now, whether Arta chooses to stay...
Because he's 40 years old now, I think, right?
When we spoke to Arta, he's actually very keen to go up and fight Thingy at Cruiser. Usyk at Cruiser.
Wow.
Now, that might be his last fight
I heard
ever.
the opposite. So is he willing to step up a weight division?
He is, yes.
Oh, to be fair, that'll be the only thing. If he beats Bivol again, that's the only thing left for Beterbiev to do, I think.
Because I think David is very dangerous. Well. Beterbiev is very dangerous, and he's young. And I think Arta, having accomplished everything, was more likely to move up because that will be... Oh my God! Imagine that fight.
They thought. I think
the Turk will be crawling all over that one.
I think Usyk got the better in the amateurs, didn't he? I think.
I think he did. Yeah, I think Arta won one, didn't he? Or did he?
Did he?
Did he lose
sure.
both?
Well, he's only lost 5 amateurs out of about 300, so it's ridiculous. But
it is ridiculous. But yes, that's the David. Going back to David Benavidez is a new guy that we're working with who loves our product, and we're navigating that with him at the moment.
Okay.
Nothing on the cards yet. But,
a lot of interesting stuff
crossed.
going on.
Yeah,
so,
fingers crossed.
It's exciting
because
to
I
see.
love David and his team. David actually has a very professional setup around him, where he has a team of videographers. His dad is very close and coaches him, and his team around him. He has constant content creators. He takes a very professional view to his boxing.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I love, that it's not something you have to worry about how he creates content around himself and potentially the brand together and things like that. So he's very professional, a lot more professional than others that are very closed off.
Okay.
He's a lot more open and
that's
really
awesome stuff. I think the names just keep getting bigger and bigger, don't they? I think, bloody hell.
It's bizarre. It is bizarre, but you have to pinch yourself sometimes in that you're waiting.
Do you have to pinch yourself sometimes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if you...
From where you started to where you are now.
If me and you, G, today, were going to start a brand and we were going to say, let's pick 3 boxers, we're going to start combat sports, 3 boxers we're going to work with that's going to ignite our brand. What 3 would you pick bigger than those 3? And to think it's not... The rocket ship is hit the engine. The rocket is on the ground. GymPro rocket is on the ground and it's starting to take off. But it hasn't moved. The moment, and it's using all this fuel, resources, energy, passion, time, money, everything, and it's not moving. The moment it starts to move, it takes a lot less fuel to keep it going. But to get it off the ground, that's the best way I can describe it again to people trying to start a brand and not getting anywhere. It's just constant. You can't think of it as... How is it 6 months or 6 years or 7 years? We're 8 years in now and it's still on the ground. You've got to keep the rocket ship going. Don't let it burn out. And eventually it will take off and it will get there. And once it gets there, it starts coming back the other way. But to get it there, if you feel like you're dying on a daily basis. Elon Musk
Did you
said
ever feel like quitting at any point?
Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right here, right now, I feel like quitting.
Yeah.
Elon Musk said
What's made you not quit, would you say?
As you start to change your mind, and you'll know this as well, that once you start to change your mindset, quitting anything becomes worse than dying. It's like, it's like a Sparta mentality. It's like going back to, historical Greek mythology, in that to give up, to quit seems illogical, and all the information is telling you the only people that win, or the biggest asset to any athlete, entrepreneur, business owner, podcast creator is your ability to persist longer than your competition is your biggest asset. So even if your product isn't as good as its competitors, even if your content isn't as good as your competitors, the fact that you can persist and keep going, and you're getting nowhere, but you keep going. Some people would say you're a glutton for punishment, or you can't see the woods through the trees, or, you're a busy fool. But yes, you are. You are all of those things. But it's that ignorant, blatant determination that is the difference at the end of the day. And that's what I'm clawing on. That's what you claw onto. It's like it's like believing in God. It's like faith. You believe it so passionately, you just refuse to quit.
I love that word, persistence, as well. It's one that will forever stay with me. Because if you're continually persistent, you become undeniable. If you have persistence with self-belief and you believe in what you're doing, I don't think you can possibly be denied.
That's why so many athletes believe in God and thank God on every speech. You see it time and time again. They thank God first before their parents. And it's because that faith, if you don't believe in something bigger than yourself, and 9 times out of 10, they're actually, when they're praying, or athletes and people believe in a faith, when you're praying, I believe, to your subconscious mind. That's it. God is in your subconscious mind. That is, for me, that is faith. Your ability to believe in a God in yourself. And that's what you are holding yourself to every day, to a higher version of yourself, a God within yourself, a higher entity that is greater than you, and you're trying to get there every day.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And
You and your ice baths. You're on day 60 now.
oh, well,
2 months, 3 months.
I got today 450.
Sorry,
I think it was
300. It wasn't it? Sorry,
yeah,
not
yeah.
30.
But
and 60.
obviously, I've since had like a couple of week break now.
But
Obviously,
how many days did you want to quit?
so many. There were so many days when I woke up or I went on holiday and I was like, this is such an inconvenience. But I said to myself at the start, people may have thought it was for social media or for other things like that. But the only reason was first I wanted to get to the 30
No,
days.
but it can be at the beginning. At the beginning, it can be a
Yeah.
social media thing. But 9 times out of 10,
Becomes so much
it
more.
evolves. That's right. And it's that evolution in your own mind that you don't expect. But you just go, I'm going to try this first for social media. And everyone's saying it's really good. I'm just going to expect, I'm going to try it.
It can snowball.
And then it goes.
But it's that proactive action, right?
Then you're beating yourself every day.
Exactly.
It becomes a mind game within a mind game.
And that's what happened. I got to 30 days. I felt great because I wanted to prove consistency and persistence. I was actually banging on about those two words while I was doing it. I want to prove it to myself that I can do it because I know there's going to be hurdles and maybe days where I might be ill, I might pick up a cold, but I'm not going to die if I get in there. So I want to prove to myself because I can make all the excuses I want that I don't need to get into the tub. But let me prove to myself I can be a man of my word. I can be consistent and I've got persistence. So I got to 30 days and I thought, okay, that was good, but a lot of people can do that. I thought, what can't a lot of people do? They can't do 365 days. So I thought, let me try and be part of the 1% club, so to speak.
Love it, Jay.
So yeah, so that's why I went for it. And honestly, like you asked my wife, whenever we were booking hotels to go on a holiday or whatever it was, there were times where we had a bath in our hotel. I had to get the bins from the room, go to the ice machine, fill it up, take it back, put it into the bath. But just because I knew there was going to be so many little hurdles like that to stop me doing it. But for me, it wasn't about the ice bath. It was about what does the ice bath represent, and it represents life. There's always going to be little hurdles, right, when you're trying to achieve what you want to achieve. So I thought, and that's all I've ever done. Even boxing, I used it as a metaphor for life, and I think that's what you can do with a lot of things that you can apply to everyday life. So,
and now you know something about yourself that you didn't know before. Now, how do you instill that in someone who hasn't had that experience? It's a very difficult thing to do, and that's parenting in a nutshell. You've just summed up parenting there, G. In that when you and your partner have children, how do you instill that mental fortitude that you've got through that experience in someone who hasn't gone through that experience?
It's very true.
That's it. And that's parenting.
I can completely see where it becomes difficult with it because for me, I kind of feel like some of that stuff was with me since I was young, but like some of that stuff I feel has happened out of pure like that one little thing of chance, which has helped develop my mindset. Which is why I can see there's such an importance on if you can ingrain that into your kids at a young age while they're a sponge, it will stay with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Their wavelength changes to a particular way and you can lead them down a path that's never ending for them and it can only be positive for them in their future. Like when I'm gone, he will have a roadmap to attack things and not be scared of things and to see challenges as opportunity rather than fear. And it's our fear that stops us from doing things. Everyone in the fire service, me and Leon, were that scared of leaving. And this is the biggest thing. Another thing I've had to make huge changes is we set up our lives as adults according to our salaries and our direct debits, our income. It's all relatable to that. But when I left the fire service, took the career break, and I to this day have still not taken a penny, Emma and I have adapted our lifestyle downwards. So we're living well below our before means in order to, one, raise our son in the right environment, and two, enable us to... It's a very difficult thing to try and say to people.
Would you say you're searching for purpose as well in your own life?
Absolutely. In that,
for me, that's a big thing for guys, right? We need to feel purpose in what we're doing.
If you ask me now if I could have taken 50 grand a year for the last 6 years rather than zero, but not be there for my son every day, it's a no-go. But you asked me before, I take the 50 grand. So here we go again with the mindset of perspective that you can only get through experience. You can only get perspective through experience. That is the nutshell of it, in that to think I would turn down 50 grand in a heartbeat to raise another child and I would never have said that before I've gone through it. Emma has paid all of our bills from the time my son has been born, and I've been pursuing GymPro, driving GymPro. And that has enabled us to raise our son, but live below our means that we used to have, which is a very difficult thing for people to even contemplate now, to give up things and lavish things. It's very difficult, but that's the best way I can describe it to people, because when you become a parent, it's the ultimate purpose.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And when you've got that, again, talking about end goal and result, I think those materialistic things sometimes in the moment becoming insignificant. I think definitely with age.
We program to have it. We program for us both to be earning, to provide for our kid, to give them the best and this and that. But it takes the one thing they need the most out of it, which is your attention. All they want is your attention.
No, definitely. I think certainly now with age, obviously I've just gone into my 30s, but through my 20s, I definitely had the feeling of getting the car, and now I've just moved house, these different things that you're trying to attain. But what I realise is the novelty very quickly wears off. Honestly, I only just moved house a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, okay, well, that's
going home
there
now.
And it's
I'm
going
home,
yeah.
Exactly.
So I feel like there has to be that search of a greater purpose in a man's life, right, where you feel like you're really adding value to yourself and perhaps to other people as well. So,
and there's no greater way to do that than another person and your child. So the best way to affect the world in a positive way is to create a better person than yourself. And that is what Emma and I are trying to do every day. He's already better than us. My God, me at 5, I don't know what I was doing, but I wasn't doing what he was doing or thinking what he was doing. So that is the best way to affect the world, is to create another human that's better than you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Love that. And one of the main questions that I wanted to ask in this podcast, and I was saving this.
Oh,
I really wanted to ask it before the podcast as well. So when I started out, obviously podcasting, I started out from my living room, a couple of mics, wireless mics, a camera, and not much else. And obviously I was trying to get it off the ground. I thought I could really do with partnering or collabing with a particular brand that would give me a bit more credibility and get me up and running.
You went with Nike.
I had to turn Nike down. I thought they don't quite fit with what, but no. I thought, let me reach out to a couple of different brands that I feel align quite well with what I'm trying to do. Obviously, this is a health and fitness podcast. I didn't get any responses from any of the brands that I reached out to, bar one, which was GymPro, and it was yourself. And it was a really nice response as well, that you said you love what I was doing and you'd love to kind of come on board my kind of podcasting journey, which I'm very grateful for. But I've got to ask why, because I was, and I'd probably still at this minute, well, I definitely think I'm getting to where I want to be, but why did you decide to jump on board and give me that chance?
Well, first of all, thank you for mentioning that. But it's where we get a lot of inquiries, and we inquire, and I mentioned this to you previously, and you get knocked back a million times in business and in life. But when people inquire with GymPro, again, we're at a stage, quite luckily, but unfortunately, it depends which way you think, but I see it as fortunate at the moment that I can take the time to respond to most inquiries. So when they come in, such as yourself, I then, rather than, it's easy to dismiss people, and people do it all the time, I then look at you, look at what you're doing, listen to what you're saying, and I go, he's a like-minded individual, passionate, determined, and aligned with the way that I am moving in my life and for our brand and with our family. And it's the 1%, it's the best way I can describe it. These 1% individuals, any connection of 1% mindsets are better than none. So the more you can accumulate around your molecule, it has to be positive. Going back to the universe, it has to be. It's undeniably inevitable. you get more 1%ers around you, only good things can happen. So that was why I aligned with you, and that's as simple as that.
No, I love that.
Welcome to the 1% Club.
And it gives me confidence to hear that as well, obviously. And do you know what? A lot of people used to ask me that, oh, why did you start the podcast? What is it that you're trying to do? And I used to have a very humble answer that I was like, yeah, I'm not a very good public speaker. I'm just trying to improve my presentation and speaking skills. But I feel like I've got to a point now where I can say, do you know what? I want to make this the #1 health and fitness podcast in the world. And I genuinely have faith that I can say with my chest that will get there. So,
but because you've started like that, what you didn't know, it's evolving now. You deep down know that you have value, things to say. You consuming information of value.
Yeah.
Therefore, you then can have value in what you can say. So unless you are a 1% mindset initially, gathering the right information, you will have no value on a podcast. But now, geez, gathering, putting yourself through experiences, challenging yourself, you know deep down in your heart that has value. So therefore, your podcast has value, and you know that now. So that is what it starts out at, GymPro, the Gian podcast, to what it's evolved to now. You know it has value, and so do the listeners. So that's why they're continuing to listen, and it will continue to grow.
No, 100%. And I think that's why I was kind of sat in awe a little bit with the type of things that you were saying, because it completely resonated with me. You were talking about persistence and self-belief, and other people may not believe it yet, but I think they're going to start to believe it when they see my self-belief into where I can take this podcast.
Energy's different.
I'm seeing myself evolving from when I started this podcast, when I was timid, scared, and worried about how I was going to appear, to the point now where I'm really willing to drive it, put myself out there. And I feel like the unique part of my podcast is me. I'm the brand. I can take it somewhere. And the fact that I've had you guys helping me, I've had GymPro who have given me that stepping stone where many of the people will probably look at me, probably saw I was getting a couple hundred views and thought, nah, that's not for me. It's not going to, because it wasn't helping you in any way to start with. I'm hoping over time it will, and I'm very confident it will. But
think of the energy, different energy level now. You're going through the mic into the camera and to your listeners. The confidence and the resonance going through it to when you first started, it would be, you may or may not have even believed in the topics you were talking about. They were just topics. But now the topics you talk about, it's so within you that you can't help but affect someone.
I can't.
You can't wait to get it out, can you?
I have so much.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you know when it's like a feeling in your gut and it's such self-belief
I've got to talk about this.
And you talk about persistence. I know, listen, there's a lot of other amazing podcasts out there. I'm 30 odd episodes in, but I know I'm going to keep going. I'm going to outwork. That persistence is going to take me so far where so many others would have fell by the wayside. They would have knocked it on the head. I'm going to continue to persist, continue to be consistent. And then, like I said, at that point, you become undeniable, right? Like,
that's it.
What can stop you?
You can't. Nothing.
No.
Only yourself.
So I've got a lot to thank GymPro for, and yeah, I just had to get that in there.
No, definitely, mate. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
But I've also got to say thank you, Adam, for coming onto the podcast. This has probably been one of my favourite podcasts as well. I love talking anything kind of mindset and health and fitness, and that's what this podcast is about, right? It's mindset, health and fitness, and it's been good to hear from the kind of entrepreneurial side of things as well, and where GymPro are going. So, and it's exciting stuff. I know we spoke off camera as well, so I'm glad that I can be part of it as well. So yeah, good stuff.
Let's hope we can get the future stars on. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
No, definitely.
If they're ever in the country,
oh yeah, no, I can imagine that's a hurdle in itself.
Definitely,
right?
Mate, yeah.
But yeah, thank you for watching, everyone. And like I say on every podcast at the start of the podcast, the link to the GymPro website is in the description. So be sure to check them out. They've got some cracking gym wear for men and women. So yeah, be sure to check it out. And yeah, thank you for watching. And thanks for coming on, Adam.
Thanks, G.